that the question will be asked, why are we celebrating more debt?
It's really a shame that the international financial community, these debts that we are now going to be incurring to finance our attempts at recovery, are like lending money to a business that suffered losses through some kind of crisis. That is the world that we as Jamaicans, both you on that side and us on this side, have to navigate.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. This is Brian Yashon. So guys, if you're coming across this video for the first time, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like and share. So guys, in today's clip is all about the two opposition, the PM and Mark Golding. So the two were in parliament, and in this case Mark Golding put the PM in his place. And now that you know the PM's wife Juliet Holness controls the parliament, she is the speaker of the parliament. Guess what happened? Now let's watch this video of this debate between the PM and Mark Golding, and I'll be back with a few reactions.
We will approach reconstruction as a growth-inducing strategy. I know from this that the question will be asked, why are we celebrating more debt? We are not celebrating more debt. What we are celebrating is the opportunity to make a massive investment in our infrastructure, in our people, in the services that improve productivity. And it is that investment, Madam Speaker, that will expand our economy relative to our debt. And therefore, in short order, you can look forward to growing, increased revenue, and a relatively smaller debt to the size of your economy. We have never before had an opportunity to spend $6.7 billion relative to our GDP. We have never had that opportunity. US and our GDP is somewhere in the region of about 17 to 18 billion dollars, $19 billion, thereabout. The Minister of Finance reminded me, $20 billion. You are proud, as are we, proud of the fact. Yes, $20 billion. So you get an opportunity to, within 3 years, to deploy $6.7 billion relative to your $20 billion GDP. So you can see the opportunity to expand the economy. And that's what the strategy is. And I'm encouraging all Jamaicans, regardless of political persuasion, to embrace this opportunity, to shift from crisis mode, to move from disputes over the distribution of a care package here or some lumber there, and start to think, how are we going to play our part in the new possibilities provided here for all Jamaicans to benefit? So, the reconstruction effort being deployed, fertilization, logistics, agriculture, and energy will create thousands of jobs, crowded private investment, sustainability. Because make no mistake, there will be those looking on at our currency and say, can the central bank defend? Do we have reserves? Well, with this, we will be in a superior fiscal position to give confidence and certainty to our business sector. We will turn this moment of crisis into an opportunity to transform. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has never lacked ambition. What we have lacked for decades is the financial wherewithal to match that ambition. Today, that has changed. For the first time in our history, our national development vision is backed by a robust, multi-year, multi-partner financing envelope. Madam Speaker, we now have a clear reconstruction strategy, an empowered institutional framework.
And this year, we got walloped by Melissa. It's really a shame that the international financial community is still approaching the mitigation of the effects of climate-induced disasters on countries like ours by financing packages that are largely based on additional debt. These debts that we are now going to be incurring to finance our attempts at recovery are like lending money to a business that suffered losses through some kind of crisis that is trying to dig itself out of a hole from. Taking on additional debt to do that is going to be a challenging road for any country. Therefore, I don't think it's appropriate to treat these announcements in a triumphant way. We are going to be incurring the costs of paying back this massive additional borrowing in years to come. We are in a country which has spent the last 15 years seeking to get ourselves out of a debt trap, where we've had to run massive primary surpluses every year consistently to reduce our debt to GDP ratio, with a target that's written into our law incidentally by a government from this side, which we were anticipating would have been met this year before Melissa struck us. And now we are facing a new era of massive incremental borrowing. If you look at 3.6 billion US of sovereign debt, that's over 25% of GDP of additional borrowing. That does, and the 662 billion already available, only less than half of that is in a form that's not debt. Most of that is debt as well. This $2.4 billion of private capital, we look forward to seeing whether that will be forthcoming and in what volumes, because you can't project that you're going to receive private investment as part of your recovery. I'm glad that the multilaterals are going to support the effort, but at the end of the day, investors have to be willing and there have to be projects available to them that are bankable and investable. So we will see whether or not that happens. But the reality is that only 12 million US out of $7 billion is grant funding. Only 12 million US out of over 6 billion of programmed US funding is grant funding. That is the world that we as Jamaicans, both you on that side and us on this side, have to navigate.
Councillor, members' time for speaking has expired. Councillor, the members' time for speaking has expired.
We didn't visit your Prime Minister's speech with the kind of response that you're giving mine.
Madam Speaker, as the time for the opposition leader has expired, we ask that you give him sufficient time to complete his presentation.
House, the question is that the leader of opposition be allowed an additional 5 minutes to complete his presentation. No, members, I am going to ask that no one asks for sufficient time to complete, because those words can mean a 2-hour, 3-hour presentation like the member from St. Andrew South. Yeah, Angela, you know it's you, who spoke for hours. What is your point of order? What's your point of order? You're correct.
That violence is standing
Member, you're correct. But it is not in keeping with the approach of Parliament to speak until conclusion, whenever that is. And we have learned our lesson, as the member so nicely stood up and reminded us. So she knows who we are speaking of. So 5 minutes, House. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it. House Leader?
Yeah, I suppose I should be grateful, though it's a very parsimonious allocation of time, to to respond to such an important speech on such an important occasion. It's symptomatic of what is wrong with this parliament, that the leader of the opposition is given 5 minutes more to finish a presentation. Anyway, that is the world in which we are being required to live. Madam Speaker, the institution which has been announced to oversee the recovery process, which does not yet exist. It is just an announcement thus far. This National, I think, Resilience and Recovery or Resilience Authority, NARA, is going to, we are told, be responsible for the relief resources being spent in a judicious way, in a way that's efficient, in a way that is accountable and transparent, and in a way that accords with a sensible policy of recovery. After all, the PIOJ has indicated that this financial quarter that we're in now, the economy is going to contract by some 11, I think, to 13% of GDP relative to the same quarter last year. That is a massive contraction. And it's going to further exacerbate the debt to GDP ratio because, of course, the debt to GDP ratio has two components. There's debt and there's GDP. So what we're seeing here is that debt is going to be growing dramatically and GDP is in the process of a free fall as a result of this terrible calamity that has hit us. So while I admire and indeed share optimism about the future, because Jamaica is such a resilient and special country, and we will get through this, I think we should approach an announcement like this with some sobriety. This event has caused us to retrace our steps substantially from the economic path we were on, and which the nation incurred substantial sacrifices to get to where we were. I'm not blaming the government for Melissa. That would be absurd. I'm not blaming the government for seeking resources to fund the recovery. It's going to be necessary to get those resources. I am just making the point that this is not something to celebrate. This is not something to gloat about. This represents a substantial setback for Jamaica, and it represents if it's not administered properly, it could permanently weaken our future prospects and damage the country's future. Which is all the more reason why the composition of this recovery authority is important. I wrote to the Prime Minister on the day after the hurricane to suggest the establishment of a task force with broad-based representation, leaders from the private sector and business community, leaders from the churches, leaders from the NGOs, and representatives from the government and the opposition. The concept of NARA is consistent with that. However, I've heard nothing from the Prime Minister as to the role of the opposition in NARA. We heard it will be broad-based, but there is no inclusivity in the dialogue around how it is to be constituted. And I can hear from the barbs that are flowing from the other side that the likelihood is that we will not be included in it. That is what I'm hearing from the other side in their responses to me, their sotto voce remarks. All I can say is, Prime Minister, the opposition represents some 400,000 voters who voted for us, 28 constituencies, and our presence in the recovery and our participation in the recovery, you'll be well advised to seek in a genuine...
House Leader, the member's time for speaking has expired.
Thank you. As the member's time for speaking has expired, I ask that you put to the House that he be allowed an additional 2 minutes to complete his presentation.
Brother, always a big theme. Interesting talk, you know?
Complete your presentation, Opposition Leader. Complete your presentation, Opposition Leader.
Another generous allocation of time. Thank you very much.
And Opposition Leader,
Yes.
Prime Minister got 10 minutes extra on 12 minutes for statement by Minister.
Right. I won't be nearly as long.
And you got
Yeah, I'm
half
wrapping
of that
up.
time.
I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
It's not in my nature to be long-winded. So, Prime Minister, the point I was making is, I think you would be well advised to seek, in an authentic way, the inclusion of the opposition in the governance arrangements over which these funds will be administered on this recovery, because Jamaica is facing an unprecedented disaster, the scale of which is indeed awesome and frightening to those who have to encounter it on a daily basis in several parishes across the land. So, Prime Minister, I wait to hear your thoughts on this. I have asked you about it for a month now. You haven't indicated to me your views, but you know, I'm putting to you today again what I consider to be the optimal approach to dealing with this particular matter. Time is short and I've been asked to finish within 2 minutes, so I will wrap up now. More on none. We will be hearing about the fiscal rules, and we'll be hearing about the suspension of the fiscal rules, no doubt. And I'm looking forward to the discussion around that, where I'll have an opportunity to say some more on these matters. Thank you, Madam.
So, thank you, Madam Speaker. You made mention of the human dignity component with your transition to digital cards or an alternative means to food distribution. In your presentation, I note that the purpose of loans, albeit that you are celebrating, and we ought to celebrate restoring the country, the aspect as to whether or not there was any consideration of persons who simply won't be able to access your electronic system to access basic necessities for the food and anything else that comes with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, in terms of an allocation, is there a specific sum that goes to the persons who are the primary victims and should be the ultimate beneficiary of any loan given? That is to ensure that the lives of the people are restored in a position better or at a minimum to the position they were before the disaster. And ask lastly that any consideration should consider the Constitution and the guidance on human rights when that is done. Thank you.
The member.
Right. Thank you very much. Prime Minister, in speaking about the next phase, and in particular moving from relief to recovery, I had a question in terms of, I think you had mentioned something about cash transfers earlier, though not specifically in here, but it ties in. So the question I wanted to ask is whether or not in the distribution of cash, allocation of cash transfers, whether gender-sensitive targeting will be used, especially given the fact that we know that targeting households that are led female heads, that really brings more fairness. And I was wondering whether or not that was contemplated in what you were planning to do. The other question that I have was really around also integrating emergency cash relief into existing welfare programs. We haven't heard much spoken about that, but I believe that that is important, although issues of connectivity and network would hamper how successful that can be. But as we are moving to restore, I am asking, where are we with that, and hoping that we will do that. Prime Minister, you speak in the reconstruction effort being deployed across infrastructure, housing, digitalization, logistics, agriculture, and energy, that thousands of jobs will be created. Again, Prime Minister, the question I'm asking, I'm looking at how Ministry of Labour and Social Security and some of those who have done the assessment, I'm looking at the cry on the ground about the partisan nature of how it has been done, how some communities have been totally left out, and I'm wondering what will be done differently to ensure that those thousands of jobs that are created for Jamaicans and not on a partisan basis.
So welcome back, guys. I hope you have watched the full clip. So the PM and Mark Goldings clashed in the parliament, and the PM's wife, Juliet Holness, being in control, being the Speaker of the House, did the unthinkable. So Mark Golding was trying to correct, the bad things that the PM is doing. So he was trying to question the PM. And because his wife, is always on his side, obviously, and she is the controller of the house, she did the unthinkable. So she limited Mark Golding's speech because he was trying, to question her husband. Now, we have been talking about this thing whereby the PM controlling the government and his wife controlling the parliament. Now, look at this case. In this case, whereby Mark Golding was trying, to oppose, to question the PM on the things that he is doing. And now, because his wife is the controller of the house, his wife is in control, she decided, to control his speech, to silence his speech. And this is not good. So the PM, we all know that during the Hurricane Melissa and all that, people tried to send aids to Jamaica, and people are trying, to help Jamaicans. And the PM received a lot of money. And people are asking questions, where did all this money go to? Because people have been trying to see how this money was used. People have been talking, people have been trying, to get answers. How did the PM use all this money? Because many people tried to help during this period, and after the period, money was sent. And obviously the PM being in control is the one who controls, how the budget is being run, the money and everything. So people were wondering, where did this money go to? Because they haven't seen the things that, that money was intended to do. So Mark Golding was trying, to question that, to ask how everything went, but now he was being silenced by the Speaker of the Parliament. So it seems that the PM is looting money, and he is being supported by her wife because she cannot allow anyone to try and question her husband in the parliament. So people have been talking, and this is not good for a country. Now, Jamaicans have been complaining on how the PM is running the system. I did a video yesterday of Jamaicans who came out online, complaining on how the PM is running the system. The PM is not running the system according to the will of the people, and the people are tired. So basing on this video, you can clearly see that the PM, how he's running the system, is not good, and he does not want to be questioned. Questioning him is not a good idea. He doesn't want to be questioned, and he has the support of his wife. So in this parliament, there's nothing you can do. And I've been reading some of your comments, and people have been saying that now this has become a family business. These people are saying that Jamaica is falling because of these two, because they are in control and there's nothing the opposition can do. Opposition is being silenced completely. There's this other woman also who was being silenced because she was trying, to question the PM. So In this parliament, you just have to agree with her husband. If you don't agree with her husband, then you won't continue with your speech because she is the speaker, she is in control. And I happen to read some of your comments about this matter. Let me just read some of them here, and I really like this comment. Now, somebody said that this is a party shop government. While the country is in disaster with no progress, you can imagine that the country is going through a lot right now. After Hurricane Melissa, I think when the PM received these funds, the best thing he would have done is to make sure that, the country, he has maintained the balance of the country. But now the money is lost. People are asking, people are wondering, where did this money go to? Now, somebody says that, PM, why are you fighting with yourself? Now, you have seen how that heated debate went on. So, somebody asked the PM, why are you fighting with yourself? Please learn to be cool and calm and collective like your opposition. And Mrs. Speaker, learn to be fair to all who are speaking. As a speaker, always you have to be fair to the opponents, because there's no way you can be in support of your husband and somebody's trying to correct the system. You don't want your husband to be corrected. As a speaker, you have failed but in this case, we all know the speaker is the wife, so there's nothing that can be done. Nothing can be done. This idea of, the wife being the speaker, I don't know how, the parliament get to that. I don't know how this happened, because it's not good for the people. Now, somebody said here is that, how much is going to the pocket? 3/4 of it. I can assure you next year we are crawling on our knees to borrow again. And this is what our leaders always do. Borrowing money, using this money badly for their own benefits, and the country remains, with debts. When they leave office when the country has a very, very big debt, and this is really, really causing, problems to us. Now, let me just read these last comments. Enormous amount of money borrowed. How long will it take for the debt to be repaid? Certainly not in the PM's lifetime. Exactly. He has borrowed so much money, and will he leaves office, he will leave that debt, so that the next leader who comes in now, he has now to deal with that huge debt. This is very bad for a country. So this idea of the PM and his wife, is causing a lot of chaos. It's not good in the parliament. It's not good. And Jamaicans are not happy about this. So I don't know what you guys have to say about, this heated debate between the PM and Mark Golding. In the comment section, you can tell me what you think, and I'll gladly reply to all your comments. So thank you for watching this video, guys. Until my next video, one love.